Okay, good afternoon, Mercer Island. This is Ed Holmes, your police chief, and it is April 30th, and we're having our Mercer Island news briefing response to COVID-19. The agenda for today's briefing, you'll hear first from our city manager, Jessi Bon, then from our mayor, Benson Wong. Our emergency manager, Jennifer Franklin, will give an update on the governor's order. I will then speak to crime prevention resources, city services, and business resources and updates. So I'll turn it over to our city manager, Jessi Bon.
Thank you very much, Chief, and thank you for stepping in today as our moderator. I'm not able to stay for the full briefing. I also want to acknowledge that Mayor Benson Wong is here today, and thank you, Mayor. I know he wanted to share some really important words with the community given some of our recent announcements, particularly about workforce reductions, which is what I wanted to speak about first today. Yesterday, many of you received a message from me explaining some of the very, very difficult decisions that I have made in the last actually 4 to 6 weeks. We have made a number of workforce reductions in several departments, and this is all due to revenue losses related to the COVID-19 pandemic. You know, a number of our traditional revenue sources that have proved over the years to be very reliable and steady have slowed or completely vanished. Things like recreational programming fees, facility rental fees, thrift store. All of the sales from the thrift store is currently suspended. And we're even seeing a trend and projecting that other revenue streams will be slowing, things like sales tax and even property tax. We have posted the press release that I shared on the Let's Talk page if you go to coronavirus. And I'll note as you read through my message, there is a link to a 9-page memo, and I'm sorry for that. There was a lot of detail to share that really walks you through in detail our financial situation and the specific reductions that we made. As a reminder, the community center, it closed on March 11th. The thrift store closed on March 16th, and neither of those facilities have reopened. This thrift store originally did some limited operations with online sales, but it has come nowhere near to closing that revenue gap. And to be honest, right now, there's still a considerable amount of uncertainty about when our services and operations will resume and how. But we are planning for what that might look like. And that's really important to mention because as we come out of this pandemic, the way we operate, the way we do business will look totally different than prior to the pandemic. So a considerable amount of staff effort is going into thinking through how these services could resume and when. So as you read the materials I've shared and have a chance to think through some of these decisions, I wanted to at least touch on some of the assumptions that went into the decision making, particularly around the financial projections. First of all, there is no model for this. In our lifetimes, most of our lifetimes, I should say, we haven't experienced a global pandemic. So we're doing our best to model what we think might happen, but certainly learning as we go. We're anticipating right now that the financial impacts of the pandemic will extend into 2021. We're not assuming a full recovery financially until sometime in 2022. For the thrift store in particular, and I think many of you know that operation, the proceeds go to support the Youth and Family Services Foundation, the Youth and Family Services Department and the really critical work that we do there. We're anticipating right now that the thrift store would reopen in July. Originally, we were projecting June. We've moved it to July, assuming that if there's a lift, there will be a ramp up to services. And once it reopens, we're assuming the thrift store can meet 50% of the projected budget goals for this year. And that's considering a whole bunch of unknowns still, how it will operate, how we will keep staff safe, how we will social distance in a small space, and how we will ensure our customers are safe as well. So still work to be done. In the Parks and Recreation Department, particularly the community center and the recreation, with recreation programming and even facility rentals, I will say there's even more unknowns. Slightly different scenario there. The community center and recreation programming are subsidized services. They don't fully cost recover. The thrift shop actually makes money. And so one of the things we really have to think through is how do we operate and not lose more money, not dig the hole deeper than it already is. And that sounds like a big challenge, and I am actually a little concerned about that. So we need to stop and just take a little more time, look at our services, look at our operating constraints, work through how these programs would share that space. And here's the thing, the Parks and Recreation Department, it's a people business. It's all about people gathering together to recreate, and facility rentals that happen at the community center, it's the same thing. So again, we really have to think through how we resume business. And these are all really important policy decisions that the council will be weighing in on as we go forward. So the reductions that I announced yesterday, the announcement was over 20 employees were laid off across multiple departments, and another 11 staff were furloughed. And I've learned since we issued the press release yesterday that furloughed means something different to everybody. So what I will say, the way we're using that word, is it means hours were reduced. We had already laid off 40 staff in March. This was our seasonal and contract employees in Parks and Recreation, and that also worked at the thrift store. So this is just a staggering loss to the city. The departments impacted, I've already mentioned, but just to say it again, Parks and Recreation Department, the Youth and Family Services Department, and our Facilities Division. And I should take a moment to say something about facilities. Most of the city buildings are shut down right now, or being used in a really limited way. The police department is still operating, of course, and the 2 fire stations. But given the massive scale back of facility operations, we did make the decision to also lay off the facility staff. So to the Mercer Island community, I just want to tell you that we're pursuing all options, both revenues and expenditure cuts. We're currently looking at grants and other options that might be available to us. We've been meticulously, and I have to keep reassuring you, tracking all of our expenses related to the emergency. Normally when a federal disaster is declared, we are eligible for a reimbursement through the federal government and the state. We don't have any certainty or timeline about what those reimbursements will look like. But at a minimum, we have to have our paperwork in order. And as you can imagine, it's voluminous, the amount of paperwork we have to complete. So that is happening, and we've been doing that since the beginning, thanks to Emergency Manager Jessi Franklin, who you'll be hearing from shortly. We also learned this week, I think it's still technically unofficial, but we got the email, that Mercer Island will be receiving $734,000 from the state of Washington, and that is a portion of the funding that they received from the CARES Act. So that is fantastic news. That money can only be used for very specific purposes related to the COVID-19 response, and we're still digging into that. But we have incurred expenses, as I'm sure you can imagine, as a city related to the pandemic. So I have a good amount of confidence that we'll be able to use those funds to support the emergency response, and even things that we've had to purchase like new laptops or cell phones because we have so many staff working remote now. So that's great news. My thanks to the state of Washington for sharing those resources with us. And finally, I would be absolutely remiss if I didn't acknowledge the community, the Youth and Family Services Foundation. I've had many phone calls with President Jody Criss over the last month, and they are engaged and willing to help, and we'll be forming a group to explore all options, both short-term and long-term. I also want to mention the Community Fund and the WeLoveMI campaign. In fact, I've been absolutely overwhelmed with emails since yesterday asking how we can help. And what I will tell you is, please go to the WeLoveMI website. You can support local businesses. That supports the city, most certainly. You can make a contribution to the Youth and Family Services Fund. And you can even make a contribution to the Parks and Rec Department. So you have many options. That's where I would direct you at this time. And thank you to everyone for your absolute generosity. The road ahead. We are certainly focusing on moving forward through this very challenging time. These decisions have been hard. They've frankly been awful. For me, personally, I will say it's been the worst 2 weeks of my professional career as we've navigated all of these really tough decisions. And I'll say, while they are the right thing to do fiscally, that doesn't mean they're not completely devastating to the community and to this organization and the staff. We have a lot of policy work to do. We have a lot of operational decisions to make. The City Council is engaged. In fact, I want to point you to the Tuesday, May 5th City Council meeting, where we will be providing an update on our work and our financial projections and begin talking about a number of scenarios going forward. I suspect that every single council meeting the rest of this year, we will be talking about our finances. And I shared a message with the City Council yesterday, just indicating, our budget work starts now. Everything we're doing now will inform our next biennial budget. So I encourage you to watch the council meeting and stay engaged. This is where we will be having our policy discussions. So in closing, I just want to say thank you for your support. Thank you for your caring and your kindness. When I sent the message out yesterday, I honestly wasn't prepared for the overwhelming support and outreach that I received from the community. And I honestly shouldn't have been surprised by that. This is Mercer Island, and this is what we do. When things get tough, we pull together as a community and figure it out. So thank you. Thank you very much for that. We will move forward, and we will get through this together. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessi. On behalf of the City Council, I promise you that the day will come soon when we can stand by each other closer than 6 feet apart, and then raise our collective voices together in celebration. However, until that day arrives, we will all have more days of hardship, uncertainty, and wishful thoughts of the past. As you just heard, the city manager has just shared in detail the devastating economic impact that the pandemic has had on the city's finances and operations. Difficult decisions have been made, and more difficult decisions loom ahead for the city manager and the city council as we consider amendments to the 2020 budget and begin preparation of the 2021-2022 biennium budget later this year. What is made and will make these decisions extremely hard and painful is in the knowledge that they go far beyond dollars and cents and balancing budgets. They have had and will have impact on people, good people who have served the island and its residents for years, people who have had the best interests of Mercer Island at heart. Knowing that friends and colleagues would be among those laid off, it is heart-wrenching, especially when the city has few options to address our fiscal problems. I want you to know that your city council members continue to work with our business community to help shore up the island's small businesses. Soon, your council members will begin work with members of the Mercer Island Youth and Family Services Foundation Board on ways to provide YFS department core services in this new and challenging environment. I know that the City Council welcomes your support, encouragement, and constructive suggestions. This is the time for the entire community to come together as we struggle towards a better day, the day when we can stand closer than 6 feet apart from each other. Thank you.
And yes, I will learn how to turn on my mic. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Wong. Again, I'm Jennifer Franklin, your emergency manager for the city. I want to go ahead and just give you an update on our governor's order that he went ahead and talked about yesterday, basically extending the stay-at-home order past May 4th. And there were 3 areas that the governor has made a gradual lift on the restrictions. And the first one is the existing construction. The second was an outdoor recreation. And the third is elective surgeries. So to start with, I wanted just to go ahead and give you a recap on the construction restart. So on April 27th, the governor authorized a partial restart of work on existing construction sites. Construction activity on job sites must provide personal protective equipment, safety training, and a daily log of all workers and visitors. They must have a comprehensive COVID-19 exposure control, mitigation, and recovery plan. And the site supervisor must maintain site compliance. To continue with this, the existing construction sites are sites that had an issue permit prior to March 23rd or needed to fulfill an obligation under contract effective prior to March 23rd. Also, we have our city inspectors are conducting inspections in a manner that's intended to minimize possible exposure to COVID-19. So only inspecting work that is allowed under the governor's orders. The video inspections are conducted where possible, and in-person inspections are conducted adhering to social distancing protocols. So in terms of the construction restart again, the Washington Department of Labor and Industries will enforce the governor's job site safety requirements. So any complaints may be submitted to L&I call center, and their number up there is 1-800-423-7233. Or you can email Linda Adame, and her email address is listed up there for you. And you can also just go ahead and our Let's Talk page is really great in terms of information. Amanda has done a great job in updating this, and I have to say it's really got all of our resources there. So always go to our Let's Talk page to go ahead and get any information that you need. All right, so our community planning and development operations tentative schedule. This is definitely subject to change depending on the governor's orders. But May 11th, we're going to resume issuance of public notices for development permitting. No more than 10 mailed, posted public notices will be issued on May 11th. And notices will comply with the city ordinance, mailed, posted, and a weekly bulletin. Additionally, June 22nd to July 10th is the estimated time period to resume public meetings and public hearings. Again, remember, this is tentative. A 30-day notice will be provided for public hearings and public meetings. The CPD staff continue to operate remotely, a single person in the office as needed to complete essential functions, and all CPD staff are observing social distancing and using PPEs. Okay, the second gradual lift on restrictions was outdoor recreation. And this actually so far really hasn't affected Mercer Island as our parks have remained open during this entire time. Our parking lots, as you know, are closed, except for ADA at the South Luther lot. But again, this had a big effect on the state, and we'll talk a little bit about that. So in terms of easing the state recreational restrictions, starting this Tuesday, May 5th, some outdoor recreation will be allowed with appropriate safety precautions. Fishing, hunting, playing golf, which my father is super happy about, day use at state parks and state public lands. King County Parks is working through a phased and reopening scenario, like starting with natural lands and regional trails. And parks patrons, again, should only venture out well prepared. And so in terms of what that looks like, be prepared to change your plans if sites appear to be congested. Don't go out if you're exhibiting any cold or flu-like symptoms. Sites may be closed to curtail unsafe conditions. Ideally, recreating locally. Don't travel. Limit your recreation partners to family and household, and practice social distancing of all areas where you encounter others. In terms of Mercer Island recreation restrictions, again, our parks are open, but Mercer Island staff is working with the cities across the state to determine what restrictions may be lifted. Governor Inslee continues to prohibit all other public and private gatherings and multi-person activities. So this is not a lift on the no gathering order, and that just really needs to be emphasized. Some of you may have seen like the California beaches, and oh my goodness, you know, it just seems like everybody just gathers there and forgot the whole order. So our goal is to not have that happen. We want to keep our levels down, and we want to make sure people are safe and stay out of the hospitals. So we are going to continue this and continue our order. So let's go ahead in terms of the last one so far is the elective surgeries. And what this really means is the elective surgeries are now allowed in certain criteria, as long as the certain criteria are met, including hospitals must have enough personal protective equipment for their staff, and they cannot exceed 80% of bed capacity. Denying surgery may cause harm to the patient if delayed, and outpatient clinic visits are allowed. And of course, you can always contact your doctor for more information. So in terms of the Stay at Home, Stay Healthy order update from Governor Inslee, he will have we call this almost like a mini series. He's going to have another update tomorrow to go ahead and talk about his phased approach and what that will look like again tomorrow. So stay tuned tomorrow to hear what he has to say on that. Okay, let's go ahead and I'm going to talk a little bit about our emergency operations update for you. So with that, we are going to go ahead and in terms of our stats, luckily nothing has changed since, our numbers haven't changed since yesterday, and they did just update this at 1:15 today. So on Mercer Island, we still have, thank goodness, which is still, you know, not good, but we only have 70 confirmed cases and 6 people have died. Again, this data is available through King County's data dashboard, and people with symptoms of COVID-19 are required to quarantine. People with a confirmed case of COVID-19 are required to isolate. And this is the data. This data is open to the public on this dashboard, but there is no other details to this data. We are not provided at the city level anything more than that is provided on this data dashboard. So we'll get questions occasionally on what's the age of people, where do they live, and that information is not provided. Okay, so in terms of staffing reductions, we are going to be dropping our EOC activation to a level 2 starting Monday. And what that means is for us is we're going from 37 people that we're staffing our emergency operations center to 14. Again, this is the 9th week of our pandemic and city response. Again, we're lowering to a level 2. And EOC staff will continue to produce situation reports that will be shared to the public on Friday afternoons. Some really great notes is our volunteers are outstanding. I just have to go ahead and a big, huge plug to David Euler, Kendra Euler, all of our volunteers that are out there really working hard to support our vulnerable populations. Last Friday, emergency management volunteers handed out over 50 masks during the senior hours at Mercerdale Park. And so tomorrow, from 7 to 10 a.m., during the senior hours, our volunteers will be back to pass out homemade masks to our vulnerable populations. So if you are in that group and you need a mask, they will be out there to give you a mask. Again, that's at Mercerdale Park from 7 to 10 a.m. And a really great note as well is, again, helping our vulnerable population. But we have, and I know, Annika, I'm saying your last name wrong, I'm so sorry, Bonneker. She is a Mercer Island High School junior, and she has created for our senior community, and I have to say I actually looked at this and learned quite a bit as well. So I'm just going to say it was really a great tutorial, and she calls this Tech 101 Socially Distanced, and it's a great tutorial about how to go ahead, especially if you're isolated at home and you may not be the most techie savvy like me. It's a great way to go ahead and learn how to go ahead from start to kind of finish the basics of learning to connect with your loved ones. So it teaches you how to go ahead and get on Zoom, how to connect your Wi-Fi if it's not working right. And she did it in a really great way, and she's really upbeat, and she talks to a level that I can even understand. So I was very happy. So she did a great job, and if you have any further questions, we've posted her video on the Let's Talk page, and she also has an email address. If you need extra help, she'd be happy to help you. So Annika, thank you so much for helping us with that and helping our vulnerable populations with getting connected with their loved ones. So that was really terrific.
Okay.
And that's it.
Thank you, Jennifer, and thank you, Mayor Wong, for your words of reassurance to the community you made mention of a few minutes ago, so I thank you for that. I thought I would jump in here now, and I'll talk about crime and then offer some crime prevention tips. I think the big crime we've been hearing in the community discussed and saw it on the front page of the Mercer Island Reporter is that home invasion robbery. We had just a couple quick updates on that. Again, as a reminder, it was April 20th. We responded to a home invasion robbery in the 9,000 block of Southeast 40th. So the suspects, they stole valuables, tied up the homeowners while the children slept. So our patrol officers, of course, respond to something like that as soon as they can. We had 2 detectives come in middle of the night. They responded right away to the scene. We called in K9 from a neighboring agency and APHIS. APHIS is a fingerprint service that we have. So they're professionals that come in. This is what they do. They look for evidence in the fingerprint arena. So they came to the scene. There were numerous pieces of evidence collected. Some of those pieces have been submitted rather to the crime lab for processing. We are working with neighboring partners, neighboring agencies as we actively investigate investigative paths. So we're pursuing those. And I just say here, the last note there, home invasion robberies, they are very rare on Mercer Island, and not only rare on Mercer Island, but in the region. So I know this has caused a lot of anxiety in the community, and I'm not saying we are all immune from these things. It can happen, but also remember that these things are rare in the community. And I'll speak in a moment about maybe some crime tips to get you thinking about. Also in the paper, we've heard recently about the spike in mailbox thefts. That's one of the property crime statistics. But just to put that in context, 10-year average for Mercer Island when it comes to property crimes. We average about 420 thefts a year, 68 burglaries, and 16 auto thefts. The idea is here, be vigilant, consider additional lighting, cameras, and alarms, and really truly watch out for each other. Participate in crime prevention programs, and again, a few more of those will be mentioned here momentarily. So, as mentioned, crime residents, you are each other's best crime prevention partners. Be familiar with your neighbors. Be mindful of vehicles you've never seen before. I'm not trying to create paranoia, but especially if you know your neighbors to be gone during the day for work, and if they're typically gone and there's a vehicle in the drive that you don't recognize, at a minimum, get a license plate for us. Maybe call your neighbor. If something in addition to that doesn't look right, please call the police. We are more than happy to come out and respond to those scenes. Neighbors, watching out for neighbors, it really is one of the best tools we can employ in the fight against crime. We typically have only 3 officers on duty at any one time on the whole island. So given our population and the number of officers, we really do lean on and rely on our citizens to help us keep the island safe. We are launching a virtual block watch program. Typically, block watches are done in person. We go to a neighborhood, one resident invites neighbors over to the house, and we come give some crime prevention messages and talks. We are gonna try this via probably Zoom. So Detective Bobby Gyra and Officer Samantha Hammer are gonna be our officers working on this. We have a resident, Ashley Hay, who's willing to be sort of our guinea pig, if you will. She's gonna invite some friends and neighbors to be our test case. So we certainly appreciate her and her willingness to work with us as we try to respond to the community needs in the area of crime prevention while being limited in our ability to do that in person. So thank you for that. There's more information coming on that. We should have this program launched in the next week or two, I hope. A while ago, a few years ago, we launched a program. I'd like to talk about it again. It's called Paws on Patrol. And so the idea behind this is for all the people that are dog walkers. As I mentioned a moment ago, we rely on our neighbors, our community, to help be our eyes and ears. So for those of you who walk your dogs, you are out there on foot. You're walking around, and if we can encourage you to do more than just taking the beautiful sights, but to also keep an eye out for things that don't look quite right. We are happy to train you in what that might look like. We have a wonderful police support officer. Her name's Anna Ormsby. She is very, very good at what she does in the area of working with animals and issues and problems with animals. Her direct number, so if you could take this down, is 206-275-7932. Again, Anna Ormsby, she's happy to give you some more information on this program, and we would certainly appreciate having an extra set of eyes out there for us. I mentioned a moment ago about mailbox theft. So between April 24th and April 27th, there were 11 reported cases where mailboxes were either damaged and or mail was stolen. So update on that case or those cases. We are working some solid leads on that. We have extra patrol cars out at night. We realize this is a regional problem. We are working with our other agencies in the area. We are posting more information on the MIPD Facebook page today. It includes a vehicle description. And between the time this slide was created and the time I'm speaking to you now, on the police department's Facebook page right now, you'll see pictures of the suspect vehicle. And I think we have a picture of the suspect also on our Facebook page. So if you go over to the Mercer Island Facebook page, you can see the vehicle. It's a bit unusual, so hopefully it stands out. And whether you're a dog walker doing your Paws on Patrol or you're simply driving through or walking through the community, if you can help keep an eye out for that vehicle, we would appreciate that. A few words on preventing mail theft or helping to prevent it in general. If you invest in high-quality security cameras, doorbell cameras, cameras that can shine on your mailbox or add a lighting there, that would be wonderful. I know it's not always possible, but to the extent you can, that'd be helpful. Video footage is always helpful for us when we come to your house. If we have an idea of what kind of video there might be, we launched a program a number of years ago where you could register your camera with the city. So you could just let us know, hey, if there's a crime in my neighborhood, just letting the police department know that I have a camera that could be helpful in looking at a person walking by during the time of the crime or a vehicle driving by at the time of the crime. So that would be really helpful. You can register your cameras on the Mercer Island Police Department website. If you went to mercergov.org/police, there's an alarm and camera registration section, so you could do that as well. Another idea there, don't let mail sit in your mailbox overnight. As inconvenient as it may be, even if it's raining pretty hard and you don't want to leave your house in the evening or afternoon, get your mail out of the mailbox, please. Just make it less desirable target. There is something from the United States Postal Service called informed delivery, and I just learned about that literally this morning. And so I downloaded the app and entered my information, and it lets me know I have a package in my mailbox. And as I understand it, it also, I think, if I understood it right, I'll know more as I get experience with it, but I think it scans your actual mail so you can have images of what is in your mailbox, so you can be aware of that, and particularly vigilant if you have any sort of financial information in your mailbox. When you're dropping off mail, if you're mailing out paper checks, if you're still doing that, or mailing out anything of in a sensitive nature, you can drop it in a mail drop box rather than have it sit in your mailbox with the flag up. The flag up tells people there's something in that mailbox. So any more these days, you're much better off dropping it in a mail drop box. You can get a post office box. There's a number of things you could do. And certainly on financial deposits that you receive. If you can do it via direct deposit to your bank, it is so much better than getting a paper check sent to your mailbox. So be mindful of that. A few words on Car Prowls. So as the weather gets better, people typically are using our parks, and I get it that the parking lots are closed, but people still find side roads to park on, to be outdoors. Please lock your cars. So always lock your vehicles, secure your windows and doors, remove valuables. A few words on this. So people get themselves into trouble when they drive to a park. They decide to hide their valuables. They will take their purse or laptop or briefcase, open the trunk, put it in there, shut the trunk, and walk away. And unfortunately, there are bad guys that sit in parking lots waiting for just that very thing to happen. So they watch you put your purse or your laptop or briefcase in your trunk. Now they know that that's the car that has that in it. And then as you walk away, they prey on that. So if you can do such a thing before you get to the park, if you have to have your purse and don't want to carry it with you, or your laptop or briefcase, if you can secure that in the trunk, if you can remember to do that before you get to the park, you'd be doing yourself a big favor there. Try to park in well-lit areas if you can. Set the alarm on the vehicle if you have such a thing. And again, as I mentioned earlier, if you see something that doesn't look right, whether it's in your neighborhood or in the parking lot at a park, if you see someone just milling around that doesn't look quite right, trust your instincts and please call us. We are more than happy to come out there. I'd far rather come out and have it be a big nothing than come out there after you thought you should have called but didn't, and we find cars that are broken into. A few other updates. Again, I'll start with the police department here, then move on to a few other departments. We are continuing to respond to a fairly small number now of complaints regarding to possible violations of the governor's order. We are always trying to be mindful of the social distancing and our PPE. We don that when necessary. Lately, in addition to that home invasion and the mailbox thefts, we have also been responding to a number of fraud cases, fraud attempts. There's some blackmail scams going on. They claim to have some pictures of you, and if you give them money in a Bitcoin, they won't send them out to your friends. I mean, they get pretty desperate. They try anything. So again, if something doesn't feel right, just call us. We'll help you walk through it. If you're not sure, just call us. That is what we're here for. We've also been going to some disturbances and to people struggling with some mental health issues. And some of this is exacerbated by the pressures of being in the same home at the same time with people. My heart goes out to those who have lost their jobs or their businesses because they can't be open. So you add some financial stress to the other stresses you have in life, and being in the same house, not able to get out, that can be really difficult for people. So we've been dealing with some of those issues. And I mentioned earlier that detectives, they're busy not only with that home invasion and the mailbox thefts, but they have the regular caseload. They have CPS cases, Adult Protective Services cases. They're working on burglaries, assault cases, and some other theft cases. So it's a busy time for us, but the good news is we are all healthy and no one is sick with this virus. Moving to the fire operations. Again, fire, like police, we're fully staffed. We have no known exposures. Call volumes are remaining steady. And there, if you can see the picture, you will see your fire chief, Steve Heitman, who completed a public service announcement for the Stay Home, Stay Healthy order at T-Mobile Park. So, Steve, you're looking good there if you're listening. Okay, a few words on city council meetings coming up. We have a council meeting on May 5th, as City Manager Bon was speaking to earlier. We anticipate using virtual meeting platform probably through May and maybe even longer if we need to. We will resume live public comment. For information on how to provide the comment, I'd like you to visit the Let's Talk page. So there's more information there on how you as a citizen can participate in the public comment part. These meetings are streamed and broadcast live on MITV Channel 21 and the city's YouTube channel. They also have archived on the website. You can go back and look at archived council meetings. So you can find that information on youtube.com/Mercer Island Council. A few words on businesses. The Paycheck Protection Program, small business applications began accepting applications again on April 27. You can find tips from a Mercer Island business owner who successfully received a loan on Let's Talk. So go to Let's Talk and you can see how to navigate that, how one of our own business owners was able to be successful in that effort. Facebook small business grants, reminder here, applications close at 11:59 on May 6th. There's $100 million in cash grants and Facebook ad credits. For more information, go again, you hear me say it, the Let's Talk page, there's a lot there. You can go letstalk.mercergov.org/coronavirus_business. Working Washington Small Business Emergency Grants, there's up to $10,000 available. There was $5 million added to the fund to bring it up to a total of $10 million for distribution statewide. So process for King County is managed by Seattle Metropolitan Chamber of Commerce. Applications from 16 Mercer Island businesses are in the queue. And the next steps on that, we have city staff and Chamber of Commerce. They're working on eligibility for applications and submitting recommendations to Seattle. An update on WeLoveMI. This is support for small businesses. Mercer Island businesses have raised more than $63,000 from the community. That's pretty impressive. 16 businesses are participating. 3 businesses have raised more than $10,000 each. There are more than 400 individual donors. Mercer Island Help for All businesses that raise at least $500 we're looking for, and you can sign up and donate at www.welovemi.org. For more information on business, you can contact our business liaison, Sarah Bluvis, 206-275-7864 is her number, 206-275-7864, or sarah.bluvis@mercergov.org. So you can contact her for more information. We still have our call center up and running. It's open 7 days a week from 8 to 5. Number is 206-275-7626. So if you have questions or concerns about the governor's order, about people complying or not complying with that, just general questions, that's what the call center is for. Again, that number 206-275-7626, or you can email at coronavirus@mercergov.org. Staff are available and happy to answer your questions. Now, next Thursday in the afternoon, we'll be here again, same time, same place, 3 p.m. If you have topics for suggestions about the video briefing for next week, please send them to this address, citymanager@mercergov.org. Any other questions or concerns can be directed to the call center, as I just mentioned, at 206-275-7626 or at coronavirus@mercergov.org. Thank you, and we will speak to all of you again next week. I hope you have a good week. And Mayor and Jennifer and Manager Bon, thank you for helping out with this today.